Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Filmy and Phil.
How you guys doing tonight?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we put on our VR headsets, dip into a little virtual reality as we cover our top 5 favorite simulation movies.
Nice. Are you a subscriber to the simulation theory, Ryan? Do you know about this even?
I do know about it, but there may be some jawheads out there that are unaware. So fill us in, Matt.
Well, I'm not claiming to be an expert on it, but as I understand it, there are certain mathematical probabilities that if a simulation were possible, that it's almost impossible that we're not living in a simulation. So right. There's plenty of podcasts and articles you can read about this.
Sure. I know the brilliant mind of Elon Musk came out and said that he's 100% sure that we are living in a computer simulation.
Right. He was smoking a lot of pot on Joe Rogan's show when he said that. So you could take that as it is.
So we're covering our top 5 favorite, and these aren't just virtual reality movies. It ties into a movie that we're reviewing this week, and that's, I know, where everybody's mind goes. So up front, we discussed we are not going to put The Matrix on our list.
It's too obvious. Yeah.
Too obvious. And we said we can think a little bit outside of the box when we're talking about, world simulations like this. So we're going to be a little creative with our top 5 lists.
As we should be, Ryan, as we should be.
Indeed. To do a list such as this, Matt, we need to have a great guest.
Yeah, we do. We need a sci-fi director and cinematographer, just like William Hellmuth, who will be joining us shortly.
Can't wait to talk to William. He has a new film out called Alone. It's a sci-fi short film on dust. I checked it out, and I can't wait to talk because I was a big fan.
Yeah, me too.
Of the movie.
Nice.
So, besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, we're continuing going strong with our Jodie Foster celebration. So we have another fact coming your way, as well as another Jodie Foster iconic clip.
And we have reviews of the Mauritanian and Bliss.
Right. Bliss is our tie-in with the simulation movies, and the Mauritanian is the movie that it's the reason why, I should say, we're celebrating Jodie Foster this month.
I love it when a plan comes together.
I do too. In honor of Bliss, I thought this would be a good time, Matt, for you to take William on in Owen Wilson, Selma Hayek movie trivia.
Oh, wow. All right.
What a mashup.
That is, but hey, it worked in Bliss, as we will discuss.
It did. So I would say it's a pretty jam-packed jaw.
As always.
Indeed, indeed. Before we bring William on, we are celebrating Jodie Foster all month of February. So let's start with a Jodie Foster fact.
Yes, this week we actually have a good one. I didn't know. As a child, Jodie Foster attended a French language prep school. Her fluency in French enabled her to act in French films. She also dubs herself in French, in the French versions of a lot of English movies that she is in. Already a successful actor, Foster then, after going to the French prep school, attended Yale. She majored in literature, writing, and she wrote a thesis on Toni Morrison and graduated magna cum laude in 1985. So not only a true talent on the screen, smarter than I think any of us will ever be combined.
I know. I think celebrating Jodie Foster was a mistake because I'm just feeling terrible about myself.
Well, what I want to know is when she redubs herself in the French translation of her films, do they pay her again? Does she get like...
That's a great question.
Is that like a double dip?
Yeah, because just because she speaks French, she shouldn't be obligated to. I think there's an extra fee that Foster probably gets there.
Probably. Well done, Jodie. All around.
Good stuff. All right, Matt, let's get this show rolling. As you mentioned, our next guest, William Hellmuth, is a sci-fi director. His new short film, Alone, is out on Dust. William, welcome to Cinemajaw.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Well, William, where are you calling in from?
Los Angeles, California, the one and only.
Is that your studio? I see like gig bags and equipment.
This is a storage closet in my house converted into a home office.
Just like the rest of us,
yeah,
man.
I mean, I've got, light over here and more lights over here, camera somewhere, it's all packed in here.
It's a true filmmaker's storage closet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, William, before we get to Alone, you are also a director of photography into cinematography. Explain to us how you got involved in your love for cinematography.
Yeah.
Where it started.
Sure. I mean, honestly, it goes back about as far as I can remember, just wanting to make movies. I wanted to do it. I can't remember a time when I didn't want to make movies. So I've never had a question of, what I want to be, what I want to do with my life. It's just, I want to, this is it. So I kind of got into the business to direct like most people, kind of studied that, pursued that for 8 years, spent a lot of time thinking about, visual language, how to build a scene, those sorts of things. And then as I started kind of transitioning from my full-time job at the time into filmmaking, I realized that a lot of these skills I was studying translated into being a director of photography. And so I started to basically just find work as a DP and, started kind of small, but just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger until paying the bills and doing commercials and stuff. And and then that's kind of how I got into that. I really fell in love with just the visual story. I always have been, like, even just as I was studying directing, it's how a scene is crafted and constructed and put together without any words to say something, to me has always just been kind of like the essence of cinema, and always just really, really intrigued me.
What do you think it is that sparked that in you? Like what's a film you saw early on and maybe when you were a kid, or do you remember the movie that made you decide, I want to make movies?
Sure. I mean, Star Wars. That was the Star Wars.
That's a great answer.
There are a few. I mean, so Star Wars was the big one. And that's a really common answer for someone my age. I was a young kid, watched Star Wars, totally blew my mind. No idea that movies could do that. I was on like a high for days, that was very much like, that was very formative. Another movie was Willow. That really, like, my dad took me to see that in the movie theaters and like the Dollar Theater, and that kind of did it for me too. Even I saw it like that one time, and just for years and years, like the image of like those dogs, running around in the snow, like the monster dogs with the tusks, the trolls and everything, that really stuck in my mind. And just like the look, the grit and the harsh light and everything, that just stuck with me. And then I didn't see it again until I was like in college or something like that, and watching it again then, I think was the moment when I realized like that movie, just in a real like visual atmospheric level, really struck a chord with me.
Two of my favorites. No arguments here.
Oh, I love them. Yeah. So on to your short film Alone, which is a sci-fi film in which an astronaut is I love the opening of the film, right? It opens with this, you're right into this action. You don't know exactly what's happening. She's in a capsule, and when she finally detaches, she looks out the window and sees the spacecraft that she was a part of, the station kind of thing, is being destroyed around a black hole. And in the film, and this is my question for you, in the film, you have it, and it's a key element in the movie. Her communication with this other person in space is delayed, like it should be in when we're talking about in space. And this is a common mistake in movies that I see all the time. And it just happened actually in The Midnight Sky, the George Clooney sci-fi film, where they're coming back from Jupiter. And when they finally get into communication with Earth, they're having a one-on-one communication in instant time, it just cannot happen.
Well, Ryan, haven't you ever read Ender's Game, dude?
But again, I'm not talking about sci-fi films like Ender's Game. I knew Matt was going to go there. Look at how they do it in Star Wars. I'm not talking about these kind of films. But when they're trying to do realistic, NASA type, missions, it at the speed of light, it takes 3 minutes for us to communicate with Mars if we were to land a man on Mars, and then Mars to send it back would be another 3 minutes. At the absolute fastest it could be, a conversation would have a 6-minute downtime. Mm-hmm. I love that your film had that. So are you somewhat of a sci-fi nerd like I am, where you paid close attention to that, and that was the basis for this movie?
A lot of this is how the writer and I complemented each other on this. I think J. Scott Worthington was the writer of Alone, and I discovered this initially as a short story and contacted him, and we adapted it into a screenplay together. And so, to answer your question, I'm actually not a huge like science sci-fi. I am a sci-fi nerd. I love sci-fi, but I'm not like the sciencey sci-fi nerd type, I suppose. I love the drama that sci-fi kind of invites by taking people out of like our setting and into this kind of like this new world, and the opportunities it gives you for just interesting character studies. But at the same time, it does bug me when I see movies, sci-fi films that have science like obviously wrong. So
sure.
So that's one of the reasons why I don't write as a director, is I want someone who does have a mind for those sorts of things to kind of come in and basically like fill in the gaps where I can't, and then I can come in and try to infuse it with the heart and all those elements that really draw me in to the story. But that is something that I really loved about the story, was that delay specifically, and how it's this real world science aspect that is used to heighten the narrative. It gives you this it's this message in a bottle, and that delay, it accentuates the distance between them, her aloneness. Mm-hmm. But it also increases the intimacy in a sense that they need to intentionally, think about and send these messages back and forth to each other. There's this thought. It's like when you write a letter as opposed to, picking up a phone or sending a text. There's that kind of thoughtfulness that I thought was kind of cool. As
a cinematographer, this short film largely takes place in one space capsule.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. There are some other settings. What were the major challenges as far as making that just one space come alive and showing it in a way where it didn't get repetitive or static?
Yeah, no, that was actually very challenging. I storyboarded the entire thing. So the film hopefully has a very kind of fluid, improvised feel to a lot of the camera angles, and it feels like just kind of like jumping around without thinking about it. But every single shot was meticulously planned out in post. Even though I was director and cinematographer, I still just did it for me, mapped it all out in my mind, because I knew I needed to switch up the angles throughout the film, right? That's kind of obvious. You don't want to be looking at the same stuff over and over again. But maybe a little bit less obvious than that is that you actually kind of do want to be seeing a lot of the same things over and over again, because you need that mental anchor throughout a story. I think, at least, for me, that I felt like I wanted to I wanted motifs, visual motifs. The biggest one was the window behind her, where you could see space and some of the light from the black hole being kind of sucked in and moving by. And I wanted that window to feel just a little bit different from scene to scene. So in some moments, in some scenes, it's really small and kind of up in a corner. Some scenes, it's really big and almost taking up the entire frame behind her head. And so there are similarities between some of the shots, but trying to just change things up enough so that it feels fresh.
Well, for a 20-minute short, it really has it packs a lot of emotion. I mean, the ending, the actress, I don't have her name in front of me. She did a great job. Got a little emotional weight there at the end.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad to hear you say that. Steph Barkley is the actress, and she really just, she just really delivered on that. I worked with her on a Manscaped commercial about 2 months before the shoot, and I was looking for an actress at the time, and I worked with her, and even though it was a really goofy comedy spot, she just had this groundedness to her performance, and I just thought I'll bet she could do this, and I checked her out. I checked out her website and Instagram and kind of got a feel for her style. And then we had her send in, I contacted her and asked if she was interested, and she read the script and really liked it. So she sent in a self-tape, and her self-tape made me cry. So we cast her.
Oh, wow. Good.
And yeah, I mean,
Nice.
it's her performance, and it's the writing and the story, the story really moved me emotionally reading it for the first time. And
Well, it got to me. I encourage jawheads to check this one out. It is entitled Alone. So it's on this app. I know Dust as a channel on YouTube, but I do believe Dust is also a standalone app that people can download. I just haven't myself. But if you just go to YouTube and you look up Dust or look up Alone, I think is the easiest way. I found it rather easy doing it that way.
It is. I would recommend. It is on the app, but they do have commercial breaks on the app.
They had commercial breaks in YouTube as
did.
well.
Oh, well, okay.
I think I could be wrong about that.
No, they did.
Wow.
You're right on that. That's how I watched it, and they had commercial breaks also.
Well, that's too bad.
So you know how I defeat that, as long as listeners maybe they'll find this helpful. After you skip the ad, you just double tap to the left to make it go back 10 seconds, and then you haven't missed anything.
That's good.
Works for me.
Yeah, but I do like I saw it has over like 340,000 views already on Dust. So I love the platform like this. I think it just is an easy way to see creative short films like this. So hopefully jawheads will check it out.
Yeah.
And if they want to follow along more on the movie or more about you, where should we send them online so that they can follow along?
Right. I mean, best place would probably, you can follow myself on Instagram at William Hellmuth _DP. You can follow the movie's Instagram at alone __the_movie.
We'll have links in the show notes too to make it really.
Yeah, because there's a lot of underscores there.
There are. You get hit with a double underscore. It's a little bit crazy.
We are celebrating Jodie Foster this month. So, William, I wanted to end with a Jodie Foster question. We threw this at a prior guest this month. We play a game called Keep, Destroy, Spielberg Remake, and we throw 3 titles at you. And you have to do just that. Keep one, you have to destroy one, and one of the movies, Steven Spielberg has to make a remake.
Okay.
And the 3 movies in question this week are Contact, Taxi Driver, and Silence of the Lambs.
The writer of Alone, Jay, would kill me if I said Contact, because that's his all-time favorite. But hey, maybe not all-time, but it's up there. But I can do what I want, Jay. You're not the boss of me. So let's see. Man. All right, so we got Contact, Taxi Driver, or Silence of the Lambs. Those 3. All right, I'm going to destroy Silence of the Lambs. I'm going to keep. Wow. I know.
Wow. That is harsh.
I'm going to keep Taxi Driver and do a Spielberg remake of Contact.
Just to be different, I think I said Taxi Driver would make a nice Spielberg remake, but I'm keeping.
Well, last time we threw in Panic Room instead of Contact, so this is a tad bit different.
Yeah, but it's kind of the same answer, because I would definitely, of the 3, lose Contact. It's the one I have the least connection with. Spielberg can remake Silence of the Lambs because that would be freaking awesome. And I said, that would be amazing.
Well, I'm with William here. I really like Contact a lot. In fact, it's after Silence of the Lambs, it's probably my second favorite Jodie Foster movie. Silence of the Lambs is just so damn good and so perfect. I don't think I could do anything with it, and I'd have to keep it. I think I would destroy Taxi Driver, unfortunately, and I'd like to see what Spielberg would do with a remake of Contact. That's where I would put it. So
I'm with you.
Did you also destroy Silence of the Lambs, Rye? Or no,
I would keep it. I would keep it.
Okay.
So
Destroying Taxi Driver. It's blasphemy.
That's a tough question right there, but I do love my Contact. It's a good one. All right. So William is sitting in on this entire jaw. He has his top 5 favorite simulation movies. And speaking of simulation movies, it brings us to our first review. Just recently, we did a cinema war in which I fought for Owen and Luke Wilson. While preparing for that argument, I went through Owen Wilson's filmography, and one thing struck me. He has done very few sci-fi films. That is, with the exception of the brilliant Armageddon. Well, he corrects that some with his latest effort, Bliss. Is Owen Wilson going full on Tom Cruise? Or am I just seeing that in my simulated reality? Matt and I took some blue crystals to see if this latest effort is worth a peek.
I have a picture in my head of a place. I don't know if it's real, but it has a feeling, and the feeling's real. Hi, my love.
Hi, Dad. I wanted to talk to you about my graduation.
I'm gonna be there in the bleachers. I'm gonna see you in your... Let me, how about I call you back?
Okay.
Taking the day off in here? The boss wants to see you.
Can I get a whiskey? Double.
You're real.
Sorry?
I want to tell you something really cool. You see all these people outside? They're not real. This is a simulation. You ready? There's my guy. Welcome home.
This place is overwhelming.
Bliss opens with Greg, played by Owen Wilson, in his office drawing a beautiful scene from his memory. The camera moves about his office and eventually looks out the window, and we see a sign that gives us the idea he may actually be in some type of rehab center. If that's the case, it's a terrible rehab center. His work phone won't stop ringing, and his boss is demanding a meeting. Leaving his job in a hurry, he goes to a bar where he meets Isabel, played by Selma Hayek, who explains to Greg that the entire world they are in is a simulation. She is able to manipulate the world around them in a way that convinces Greg she's right. They go to a roller skating rink and force people to fall over with their minds. This does the trick. Greg is all in on the idea. They find themselves on the run from police, eventually taking these strange blue crystals that will wake them up from the simulation. And voila, it does. The two of them wake up in a blissful reality in which they are actually scientists doing research on patients in this simulated world. All seems great until this reality starts to crumble before their eyes. Which world is real? I think we all know. Bliss is not a terrible film, but it is also not a thinking man's sci-fi film either. It comes off like it's trying too hard to be confusing. Owen Wilson's performance was fine, as was Selma Hayek's. The issue I have with it is it's very on the nose. I would have actually liked something a bit stranger to happen after they took the blue crystals. Matt, did you find this film to be blissful or just bland?
I think it's more up the nose than on the nose. I mean, you're skipping the entire drug culture element to this. And obviously it has a lot to do with mental health as well. Those two things, addiction and mental health, are major themes. I think I liked it a lot more than you. I found it pretty satisfying because I wasn't coming at it necessarily from the sci-fi angle and more about the mental health and addiction angle. Because I'm not sure, like you said, well, which one of these worlds is real? I don't necessarily think that either one of them were real. And I don't want to spoil anything. It's up to you to decide, but it's more about a massive delusion that Greg is going through. Again, this is just my interpretation. I liked it.
But by saying that, what you just said, that he's going through a massive delusion, aren't you answering then the question of which world is real?
Not necessarily.
To some degree you are.
No, because listen, things that couldn't possibly be real, quote, happen in both realities that we see in the film, right? And interestingly enough, there are some convincing things that would say, like, okay, Greg is in a simulation in the beginning of the movie because we see things that he doesn't see that change and glitch. Right, like characters walking in the background that have a glitch sort of disappear. Right, but that could be a visual metaphor for the unstableness of somebody's perception. Who knows? I think it's left unclear enough. The ambiguity at the ending was very satisfying. I liked the way it ended. I found it very sweet and touching, and the message was good. Where we are left with the movie, brought it all home. It was pretty good, pretty satisfying. The ending was great.
So for me, when they wake up from the simulation and they go to this blissful state where everything is absolutely perfect, and we hang out with these two characters, Selma Hayek and Owen Wilson, in this blissful world for about, maybe
Bill
15,
Nye the Science Guy.
Minutes. Right. Bill Nye is also in it. I liked him appearing in this.
Me too.
They walk around in this world for about 20 minutes or so, and this reality starts to crumble. Could be the crystals are wearing off is one idea. I thought that's where the film dropped the ball. I would have liked to see these two worlds sort of melt together a little bit more. Yes. And I thought that's where we were going. And that always plays for great visuals also. I'm thinking of, films where, reality of something that's happening in a other world is starting to affect the world that they're in. I love when that happens visually on screen. And it does slightly here in Bliss, but nowhere near what I thought they could have been capable of doing.
I think Bliss was a was a much happier and sci-fi leaning version of Leaving Las Vegas. That's kind of what I got from it. So I didn't get too frustrated. Again, I'm sort of repeating myself by the worlds not colliding or the sci-fi answers coming in the right way, because I felt like it was more about mental health and addiction. So I think it was all kind of bullshit, if that makes sense.
Okay. The only other issue that I have that I did want to bring up that I have written down in my notes is that I thought, and I love Selma Hayek, I just don't know if she was the right person to be cast in this role.
Why?
It just didn't work for me. I don't know. I think I would have liked a different actress. Yeah. Especially in the world where when they're there's sort of this home base where they're underneath a bridge.
Yeah.
All of that entire segment of the movie, I thought it didn't work with Selma Hayek there. I think it would have been better with another actress. You liked her there?
Yeah, because she played two sides of the character very well. Like in the world that we begin in, she's sort of a vagabond type, sort of like a witch. She burns herbs and she reads spells, things like that, right? And then in the other world, she's this doctor, very buttoned up and dressed very straight and proper. And I believed both sides of her, both of those roles from Selma Hayek, 100%. She was perfect for both of those roles.
Interesting.
I will say the chemistry between her and Owen Wilson wasn't it didn't exactly melt the screen, but whatever. They were okay. They're both great actors.
Seems you liked Bliss a lot more than me, actually.
I did. I liked it a lot, man. It was cool.
You got a movie poster quote for us?
Yeah. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, drink a beer, and take some yellow pills.
It's a good movie poster quote right there. I think you could see this one right across the poster. Armageddon is still Owen Wilson's sci-fi masterpiece.
Wow. What are you giving this? How many Jaws?
2 Jaws, Matt K. 2 Jaws. Middle of the road. I didn't hate it, but I was not very high on it either.
I went 2.5. The ending brought it home for me.
I mean, the way you were selling it.
Did you think I was going to go 4? I mean,
the way you were selling it there for a while, I thought maybe 3 at least. But
yeah, maybe on a second viewing, I'd give it 3, and I'd watch this again. So
you would?
I would. Yeah, I really liked the ending quite a bit.
Interesting. All right, Jawheads, if you have seen Bliss, it is streaming right now on Amazon Prime. So if you have a subscription there, it's exclusive to Amazon Prime. Check it out. If you have already, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Obviously, a movie like Bliss with a simulated reality got us thinking about just that. And we're living in a time where VR, Matt, is really catching on, so much so that yours truly, Rye the Movie Guy, has a VR headset in his house. Do you believe that, Matt K?
Well, I know, because we've been talking about it as soon as we turn the mic off every episode of Cinemajaw. It's your new obsession, huh?
Well, I just got it. So, of course, it's interesting to go into the VR gaming world and walk around these cool locations that they have.
Well, you should watch a VR movie, Rye, and tell us what that's like maybe next week.
I actually did jump into a VR. They have these like screening rooms where you can go in with people around the world and watch movies together. And I crashed a movie, and it was Avatar. This was just a freebie that somebody had a gathering for. So I went into their room, and they had Avatar on the big screen.
Yeah, but Avatar's not a VR movie.
It's not. But you're in a VR world, so it looked like we were in a giant movie theater with other people watching this movie together, and you can talk to people about the film while it's playing. It's pretty cool.
That's interesting. I can't wait to get a pair of goggles myself.
I just started screaming, "Kill the blue guy! Kill the blue guy!" Then somebody was throwing popcorn at me, and I got the hell out of there.
Nice.
All right, so we are talking simulation movies. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Jawheads, the obvious choice, The Matrix. It's our honorary pick as everybody's number one. Right. It's the best VR movie ever made. I don't think there's any arguments here. So that is not going to be set on our list. William, you're our guest. You're getting us started. Was this an easy list for you to come up with, or actually tough to get 5 on there?
It's actually kind of tough to find. I found the more I started thinking about it and thinking outside of the box a little bit, the more I found. But I mean, it definitely wasn't a list where I thought like, oh man, how am I going to narrow it down to just 5? It wasn't easy.
Yeah, I concur.
What do you got sitting at number 5?
Well, I've got kind of a number 5 that it's not necessarily my 5th favorite of the bunch, but it's definitely the biggest stretch of what could be considered, simulation film. Mostly because the film itself doesn't deal with the characters in any kind of a simulation. It's just the film itself is basically a simulation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Yes.
Still going with the Wachowskis here. Speed Racer. The movie is, I love that movie. It's totally insane. Characters aren't in any kind of a simulation, but like the movie's like a video game.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal.
It's insane.
The entire world that they're in is computer generated, so
it makes me feel like I'm in a simulation watching that movie.
And who knows, William, you may be. I mean,
I could, exactly. Yeah, that's thanks.
True
to Speed
story
Racer now.
here. I have not seen Speed Racer.
Really?
Should I write this one down in the journal, Matt K? Should I write this one down in the journal?
Well, Ryan, as the Wachowski completist that you are,
I'm going to do it. Damn it! I'm going to put Speed Racer in the journal. It will be watched this year. It will be watched.
Let me know what you think. I love that movie.
I liked it a lot. I wouldn't go as far as you, William, to say I loved it, but I liked it a lot. I've seen it more than once. So
yeah, it's honestly take. It's my favorite Wachowski movie.
It's eye candy. I mean,
it is.
That's what they do for sure.
It's gorgeous.
It's also probably the greatest live action anime film ever made.
You're right.
Can we throw this in the fish tank? What year Speed Racer came out in comparison to The Matrix? How many years apart they were? Thank you.
All right. That swings it over to me for my number 5. This, I will say, is my most traditional simulation movie, and I have a bunch on my list. I actually came up with 14 movies. So if at any point we cross over, I have substitutions. So this one is Source Code, which is it's with Jake Gyllenhaal, and he keeps reliving this time loop where he's on a train, and I believe there's a terrorist on the train. Somebody blows up part of the train. It's really cool because the train is in Chicago, and you see the Chicago skyline through a good part of this movie, and it's home. So it was neat to see. And it was just really well acted. The way that the story unfolds, and as we like learn more and more, it becomes just very intriguing because he's trying to solve this mystery. But then as you learn what's really going on with him and his character, it gets kind of sad. And I really liked Source Code. I thought it was pretty original.
Yeah, I got some notes on this one because it was originally on my list, but I too actually have some honorable mentions. So we're okay, Matt. It's directed by Duncan Jones. This was his second film. Coming off a hot streak. I mean, this was when I thought, oh my God, he's the next great sci-fi director because he had done Moon, and then he comes back with Source Code, which maybe not as good as Moon, but it's a damn good sci-fi film.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that he's trying to solve this mystery of who blew up this train that he's on. And really he's trying to do that so that a second explosion doesn't like wipe out the city of Chicago. It's a great premise. And he's doing this in this machine, the Source Code. I liked it, Matt. Big fan.
Then
Jawheads haven't seen it.
Duncan Moon fell off with his VR movie, World of Warcraft. Good
pick, Matt. I'm a fan of that movie.
Cheers.
My number 5 pick is completely not a virtual reality movie or about simulations, but it does have one of the best 90s version of virtual reality that I watched again and I laughed out loud and I thought, all right, I'm putting it on my list just so I can talk about this one particular scene in the movie. It came out in 1994. It stars Michael Douglas and Demi Moore. The film is called Disclosure. And if you've seen the movie or at least saw the box cover of the DVD, it's like a sexual harassment movie. This takes place in a corporation Michael Douglas works for, and Demi Moore comes in as his boss, and those two knew each other, and she basically tries to frame him for sexual harassment. And there's a motive behind that. And he's going to lose his job, and he's trying to figure out the motivation of why they're trying to fire him. And the virtual reality scene comes near the end of the film where Michael Douglas is going to try to get into the files of the company to figure out what's going on. And the only way he can do this is by going into virtual reality.
Oh, man.
And the scene starts with Michael Douglas going to the machine that's going to put him inside the virtual reality. He gets on this little disc, if it almost looks like a small trampoline. And he puts on the virtual reality helmet, the mask, and then these lasers scan his body. And what we get after that is full on Michael Douglas inside the virtual reality. So it's not an avatar at all. It's just Michael Douglas in virtual reality. And he's walking these giant halls of records, and he's trying to figure out what file to go into. And he opens up the file and he's trying to get to it, and he's in a rush situation because people are coming into the office. And as he's going through the file, there's a security measure there so that he can't get to one of the files. And the way that's represented is it's just an avatar of Demi Moore's character inside the file. And he starts yelling, "She's in the system. She's in the system." And now we got Michael Douglas and Demi Moore in the virtual world. It's just hysterical. And he has to take the glasses off. It clearly was thrown in there because virtual reality was becoming a thing in the 90s. So, hey, let's tack this on into this sexual harassment movie. But Disclosure was a fun one.
Scene.
Yeah,
right.
do it.
They just use conventional photography. It wasn't like graphics.
No, yeah. I mean, it's Michael Douglas inside the virtual reality.
But it's shot as if it's real. It's not computer generated.
Right. It's okay. They use some effect in there so that you get the idea that he's in a simulation, but it's full on Michael Douglas inside the.
Okay.
Within a matter of seconds, he's in the virtual reality.
Crazy.
There are no boundaries when you're Michael Douglas, Matt.
Sure. Especially Michael Douglas in virtual reality.
Into our 4s we go. What do you got sitting there, William?
All right. I think number 4 for me is probably going to be Tron. The original Tron, just excellent. I mean, that's about as a simulation as you get, super iconic. It's like a very classic old-fashioned hero's journey story, but I just find it's great. I love it. I mean, and I still find the special effects on that very cool
to this day. I agree.
Yeah. And I remember I saw it for the first time when I was in high school, and I remember thinking, this isn't realistic looking, but I don't care because it's not supposed to look realistic. It's just really well. Art directed, I guess, it's so great.
So, what still holds up? The music from Tron. It still sounds amazing. I'll throw on that soundtrack once in a while. When I'm working, it's relaxing and motivating. It's great music. Love me some Tron.
It really shows what being original can do, because you're right. There's nothing else out there like it. So I think that's why it holds up through the test of time. You still put it on and you're like, whoa, this is pretty cool looking.
Cool. Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's number 4 for me.
All right. Over to me then at number 4. I'm going all the way back to 1946 for a simulation. And this is way outside the box, but It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yes.
So George Bailey dies, right? And then his guardian angel, Clarence, shows him a simulation of what life would be like in this town if he had never been born. So that's not reality that he's living. That's a simulation. And of course, in 1946, personal computers and virtual reality were, not even an idea yet. So I wonder, if they'll ever do a digital remake of It's a Wonderful Life, or if they ever have. But that's a ripe one for the picking. That's my number 4.
I hope they don't, Matt.
Yeah, they just got to get Daft Punk in there, and
right. I'd be down for it.
Christmas.
My number 4 pick. I took one for the team here. Me and Matt were talking about doing simulation movies, and I looked one up, and it was a film neither Matt or I had seen. Came out in 1995, and the cast was intriguing enough. It starred Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. And how bad could this be? I had never seen this movie. It is entitled Virtuosity.
Mm-hmm. So you watched it?
Oh, I watched it, Matt K. And what an absolute complete mess. I mean, we're talking about virtual reality, so it lands on the list for a reason, but it is stunning. This came out in 1995. Stunning to me. This is only 4 years.
Wait. Can re-say it because you froze?
Yep.
Start with the year this came out.
Yep. This came out in 1995, and it is stunning to me that it is so far behind The Matrix, which came out just 4 years prior. I mean, they are not even in the same galaxy of type of action film. This plays out more like something that we would have seen in like the late 80s, as far as the action goes. But the premise is this. It's actually, the movie starts off in virtual reality, and there's a character inside this virtual world named Sid, who is played by Russell Crowe, who is this ridiculous villain, over the top inside the virtual reality. And inside the simulation, Denzel Washington, who is actually a convict at this time, they're testing him in the simulation. He needs to try to catch the bad guy, and he's trying to catch him. Well, that's just the beginning. And what eventually happens is a computer scientist, figures out a way to get Sid out of the simulation and into the real world. So he takes this computer identity and makes him an actual human being. And when Russell Crowe
now is in reverse, basically,
right?
Yeah.
So now when Russell Crowe is in the real world, he's almost like the T-1000, where he can't be killed because he can regenerate himself. But it's nowhere near as cool in any way as the T-1000, and it doesn't. The action is just hogwash. None of it is good. But I will say, it's entertaining because of Russell Crowe's over-the-top character. Denzel's Denzel. He tries to do his best here, and he's always worthy of, a good action movie. But Russell Crowe, over the top, sort of steals the show as far as fun goes. Outside of that, the movie's a complete mess.
Well, I'll give it a spin based on your recommendation.
Streaming on Hulu.
Okay, worth checking out. That gets us to our number 3s. William, what do you got sitting there?
All right, number 3 for me is going to be, this might be an obvious choice, but I love this movie, Inception. Yeah. I love, in fact, this is kind of a big toss up for me. These top 3 for me may as well be ties because I love them. I love all 3 of them. But man, I love the way Christopher Nolan plays with time in Inception. I can watch that movie over and over again, and it never gets old. I love the action sequence and the rotating hallway, how it just like goes and goes and goes and builds. I remember seeing that in the theaters and just thinking like, yeah, like get bigger, and it just kept getting more and more exciting. I just love it. And and weirdly, Inception is a really great movie to watch when you're really tired and you're going to be dozing off during a movie. It kind of like adds to the just next, the trippiness of the movie, like, the movie's incepting you, and I like that.
It's almost the meme of, are we in a simulation? Is that spinning top at the end of Inception? Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you read an article out there on the internet about, are we living in a virtual reality simulation, I guarantee you'll find that as the featured image of the article.
So iconic, very iconic.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my number 3. I'm reshuffling because one of my picks was mentioned. So I'm going to throw in a documentary here that's not a documentary, and I think I like this one way more than Ryan does. We actually got to interview the director back in the day. The Institute is the name of the film. They did a series on this actual event that took place in real life, a TV series with Jason Segel, and it was called Elsewhere, if you're interested. But this documentary is about a augmented reality game that took place in real life in San Francisco in the aughts, and people fell down this rabbit hole of this game. It was called the Jejune Institute. They had to go in real life to get this key from a very, intimidating office building. And then it sent them on a pretty mundane scavenger hunt. But then it just kept getting deeper. They get secret radio messages. They would get text messages. There was a dancing Yeti. And all of this was done in real life by these artists who designed this augmented reality game, and it became legendary. And then the documentary itself becomes a layer of the mystery, which I found fascinating. I'm not saying they pulled it off 100%, but the intention was there, and it was delicious to me. And I think that layer of mystery, like what's real, what's not real, is even the documentary part of the hoax was just I loved it. The Institute.
I don't know where it fits in on the simulation.
Because it's augmented reality. I suppose
augmented we're doing now. Okay.
Well, listen, we're thinking outside the box, Ryan, right? You gotta take some chances here. The Institute, I think, it creates another world, another layer on reality. Is it a simulation? Yeah, because it's artificial. It's created. It's not real. Yes, no, not buying it.
No, not buying it. You are a much bigger fan.
I can't wait to tear apart one of your outside of the box picks. Here we go.
Well, here's one of mine outside of the box picks. 2013, and I love this movie. I've brought it up a couple of times on Cinemajaw, and I hope people do check it out because I don't think enough people have seen it. You're actually a fan of this one, Matt, though. Yeah. Robin Wright stars as herself in the movie The Congress.
Yeah, that's a good one. I hate to say it.
And the premise for it almost has two different takes on virtual reality and simulation. The early premise is this, that Robin Wright, who's playing herself, goes to her agent and she sells her digital likeness for a 20-year period. Hollywood can do anything they want with Robin Wright. We've gotten to the point in technology where they can literally digitize her into any movie and any circumstance that they possibly want. And she is selling her rights to this. 20 years pass after she's now been, in everything. And there's this great scene because the movie actually switches over to an animated movie. And in the animation is this fact that she's going to this conference at the Congress, which is where the movie gets its title, where all these people have gathered in a simulated city. And what we've come to find out is they're all on this like hallucinogenic drug that makes them be able to have almost like their own avatars in their minds of what's going on. And we see that in the film as they're all as crazy animation is going on. Wild movie. And then she can actually take a particular drug to wake back up into the real world and see what this dystopian future we're at. I love The Congress, and I don't know why it just seemed to miss its mark. Enough people haven't seen this one. I don't know. Have you seen this by chance, William?
No, I haven't. It sounds awesome, though.
It's really weird.
I wrote a note down to watch it when I get the chance because it sounds great.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting film. Phil, can we throw it in the fish tank to see if that's streaming anywhere? Because I might want to watch it again after the podcast. So that was my number 3, The Congress.
Harvey Keitel plays her agent, and there's this one scene where he's directing her while she's getting photographed, her digital likeness, and the camera's like going around her entire body. It's an amazing scene. Definitely worth checking out, William.
Into our 2s we go. William, what do you got sitting there?
Okay, number 2 for me. This one's a little bit of a stretch too, but The Fountain. I love that. I love that movie. Like it's very poetically directed. I love the way sound is used in that movie. Simulation. It is a little bit of a stretch to say it's a simulation, but I would say that like I interpret it very much like a simulation, because you've got Hugh Jackman, his character is going through this story trying to cure his wife's disease, and then we're kind of like seeing into his mind a little bit with this story and like this mythical past and this mythical future that are kind of like simulations, I guess, playing out of his mental process and what's going on inside of him. And just the emotional journey, the visual poetry in that movie, it's just like, I mean, and the score is gorgeous too. Like everything about the movie just clicks for me. So yeah.
I just watched this movie for the second time maybe 3 weeks ago, so it's very fresh in my mind. I had it written down to rewatch it for the longest time, and I finally did because it's on HBO Max. And I was like, oh, I am watching the Fountain once I saw that it was on there. Should be noted, it's Darren Aronofsky. And you're right. The visuals, the effects that they use sort of in the transitions, it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's just literally gorgeous just to look at the film. It's amazing what he pulled off.
I just the cinematography, the shadows and the warmth and the transitions from one world to the next, how he'll kind of just seamlessly start slowly introducing this other world. And I mean, it's really masterful. I love that movie.
So is Rachel Weisz the tree at the end, in your opinion?
Yes.
She is? Okay.
That's her. Yeah, she's the tree who he's drawing life from. And the movie is like, I love that movie.
Yep. Big fan as well. The Fountain. HBO Max, if you haven't seen.
Yeah, Aronofsky's the master. There's no doubt.
Yep.
All right. At number 2, I am putting Being John Malkovich. I think that first of all, this movie's weird. It's up there with Congress. I think it got much more of an audience, and deservedly so. But going into the mind of another human being and controlling them like a puppet on a string that's kind of a simulation, right? When you exit the body, you land on the Jersey Turnpike. I suppose he was both in reality at both times. He was just using a different avatar. So I don't know. Where do you land on this ride? Judge me on this one.
Yeah, I'll judge away because I didn't write this one down. I did think about it, and I ruled it as not a simulation. But it's definitely borderline.
When he goes to the world where everyone's Malkovich, that's not reality, right?
True. Yeah, true. Especially that scene. It's such a weird movie. It's tough to say that exactly what category of film this fits in. It's just such an original film and idea itself,
Yeah, this was Kaufman, right? We're swinging for the fences here. What do you got there?
So truth be told, at number 2 was where I had actually slotted Source Code. I might be stealing William's number 1. And I don't like to talk about this movie because I've mentioned it so much, but let's just go for it. Haven't brought it up in a long time. My first honorable mention was going to be Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Anyone? William, your number 1?
On this list.
All right.
Actually, I doubt my number 1 is going to be any of yours, so it's okay.
Okay. Kate Winslet, Jim Carrey. I know a lot of people have this way up on their list is favorite film of all time. It's a heavy hitter, and it's up there in my top 10 of all time. Here we are in the simulation where Jim Carrey is going to get his memories erased of an ex, and we jump into the mind of this person as he sees these memories. And of course, because we're in his brain and seeing these thoughts and memories fade away, the images on screen are very surreal. So you have weird images of him underneath a kitchen table, and everything else is really big and Jim Carrey is small, and these great scenes where they're laying on the ice, and there's just great imagery throughout the entire film, and seeing that all fade away is just so sad, especially at the end. And again, when we were talking about the movie Bliss, and I mentioned that I wanted to see those two worlds sort of merge together, I was thinking in my mind of how great that final scene is in Eternal Sunshine when they're at the beach house where they first met, and that memory is starting to deteriorate and the house itself is falling apart around them. It's just such great imagery, and I wanted something that out of Bliss, and you don't get something like Eternal Sunshine every day.
No,
I'm happy that it exists by itself. So
nice pick, Ryan.
Great movie.
That was my number 2. Into our number 1s. Here we go.
Okay, this is it. So my number 1 simulation movie, Star Trek Generations. I absolutely love this movie. Lifetime Star Trek fan. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. I feel like most
I've
people
seen them
probably
all, but
have.
I can't remember which one this is. So help me.
Okay, so Generations. It's where it opens up with Captain Kirk is on the USS Excelsior. No, not sorry. It's Excelsior class. It's the new Enterprise with a kind of a captain that's straight out of the Academy, and they answer a distress call next to this nebula, this mysterious nebula that's just destroying all of the ships nearby. And this new Enterprise with Kirk on board. Kirk is just like ceremoniously on board to kind of say, hey, good job, Captain, that kind of stuff. And Kirk ends up rescuing people from this ship, but in the process, part of the ship is destroyed that Kirk is on. And so he is assumed dead. Decades later, Captain Picard on his Enterprise, I don't want to get too into it, but Picard and Kirk basically meet inside of this nebula, which it's found out later on in the film that this nebula called the Nexus is what it's called. And inside the Nexus, when you're inside of it, it kind of like makes all your dreams come true. So you go in there and it gives you like the perfect life you've always wanted. So Captain Kirk is with the woman that he loved and that he left for his career in Starfleet. Picard, his in the Nexus, he has a family, he has kids. So, all these people have like everything they want, and they kind of have to choose, like, do we stay in here or do we leave to go stop? Anyway, it's a movie like the older I get, the more kind of nuances I catch in it, and just the more meaningful it gets to me. I love Picard and Kirk. The two of them being on the screen together is massive for me. The Enterprise D separates and crashes on a planet, which is amazing and epic. Like, I love that movie. It's so great. So big fan.
Yeah, I'm a next gen guy myself, for sure.
Yeah, next gen is great.
There's so much stuff with like the holodeck and whatnot.
Yeah.
I myself have not seen this particular Star Trek. I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan. I have seen some of the films, but not that particular film. But if you were going to say that Captain Kirk and Picard went into a nebula and started the universe, I would have believed that as well.
There we go.
That was the Big Bang. I mean, you get William Shatner and Picard inside a nebula, and that's what the Big Bang is, right?
There we go. That's it. Yep.
Swinging it over to me, and at number 1, I have 1990 Arnold Schwarzenegger, Get Your Ass to Mars, Total Recall. And this movie is amazing for so many reasons. Sharon Stone as one of his love interests. They are in a simulation, right? Because he goes to this place, this recall service where they implant vacations into your mind. So you never have to actually leave or travel to get sick or it's ostensibly cheaper, I guess, to travel in this way. They just plant the memory of a vacation in your mind. So he chooses this secret agent thing, and then something goes wrong, or does it? Like the whole movie keeps you guessing, which I really enjoy. I've watched it a bunch of times. Like as a kid, I probably watched it 15, 20 times, and I've watched it since as an adult. And to this day, I'm not 100% certain which side of the fence I land on as to whether or not it was a dream or reality? I don't know. I just think it's kind of poetic that it doesn't need to be answered. And I'm pretty sure, can we throw this in the fish tank? I'm pretty sure this is based on a Philip K. Dick story called We'll Remember It Wholesale for You. I'm almost positive that's the name of the story. I just can't remember if it was Philip K. Dick or somebody else. But I love Total Recall. It's a way better movie than people give it credit for because, Arnie action in the 90s was kind of looked down upon.
Good pick, Matt. I'm not going to poo-poo this one.
Please don't.
I like it.
What do you got there?
My number one, I know we've talked about this one, came up as the film me and you champion that most people hate. We did a show on those, and this was on our list. 2001, it's a Tom Cruise vehicle. It's a remake, but man, do I love it. And when you're talking about a simulation, here it is at number one for me. I have Vanilla Sky as my number one. And in it, Tom Cruise plays a guy that's such a perfect character for Tom Cruise to play. He's this good-looking rich guy who ends up getting in a car crash, disfigured, and everything that he had is sort of lost there. And before he dies, he goes into a lucid dream. The movie doesn't play out that way. We don't know exactly when he goes into a lucid dream, and I think that's why people were confused seeing it for the first time. But with everything that's been thrown at us now as moviegoers, I think going back and watching Vanilla Sky, it plays out pretty straightforward of what was going on. Maybe there's a little mystery of when he goes into that lucid dream, but near the end, when he's yelling for technical support, it all makes complete sense to me. I don't know what anybody would find baffling about it. And he gets up on the top of the building, and he was afraid of heights, and that is sort of his cue to he wants to wake up and not be in the lucid dream anymore, is when he wants to jump off this high place, and he chooses to wake up. I love the film, and I love the idea more than anything of our brains, even like, as we get older in life and maybe, you have people have some disease and they decide like, all right, we're going to take your brain and we're going to put you in a lucid dream. It's a pretty damn cool thing. And I don't even think we're all that far off from that type of reality where it could probably play out.
You might be having a lucid dream right now, Ryan. Just don't jump off your roof, buddy. All right.
No, I will.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I am going to go to bed today and dream of William Shatner and Picard in the Nebula.
Have you seen the original French movie, Open Your Eyes? Have you ever given it a spin?
I have not. No.
So me neither, dude. And I'm a huge fan of Vanilla Sky. I love it.
I know.
And every time we bring it up on the show, especially with other critics, they lambast us and say that we have to watch the original French movie. And I can't tell if there's something to that. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Right. Vanilla Sky definitely falls in one of those. I know I'm way higher than most people on Vanilla Sky, but I'm a very big fan of the film. Honorable mentions before we go to break. Matt, you said you had something like 71 written down.
I wrote down 14. So Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Yes, Dream Warriors.
Hey, if you can put Inception on the list, you can put Dream Warriors. The Truman Show. Different kind of simulation, but a simulation nonetheless. There's a big one we haven't hit on, and that's Ready Player One. I think the book is infinitely superior to the film, even though I did have fun with the film, but there you are. It's a simulation. Jumanji, the recent Jumanji films where they go into the video game, it talks with the parlance of simulations and video games, so I think that one belongs on the list. Cabin in the Woods, all about simulations. Could have been higher on my list, honestly. Probably should have been. And I think you might have this last one on your honorable, so I'm going to hold off on it. What have you got, Rye?
I have, you mentioned a bunch that I had written down, including Ready Player One, but two that you did not mention is, I just was going to put this on my list because it's definitely, they go into like a virtual reality. They go into the mind of a killer. But I got that damn rule. You can never put a Jennifer Lopez movie on your list. So I could not put The Cell from 2000.
That's a good one though, dude.
I'd like to see it remade with a better cast and updated.
I don't know why you're hating on J-Lo, man.
J-Lo and good. Vince Vaughn was the cast in there. And then the other one not mentioned, Synecdoche, New York.
That's the one. Yep.
Which would have been the third Charlie Kaufman film mentioned. So he's big into the simulations.
He is. He likes layers of reality.
Yeah. So. William, anything not mentioned, or you good?
Well, I mean, I had Truman Show on there too as an honorable mention that I had written down, so that got mentioned. Love that one. A big one for me actually is a Black Mirror episode. It's not a movie though, so that's why I didn't make it on there. But 15 Million Merits.
Jawheads, if we missed your favorite simulation movie and you have Twitter pulled up, we're at Cinemajaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have a review of the Mauritanian plus Matt versus William in movie trivia. Stick with us.
This week, in our celebration of Jodie Foster Month, Jodie Foster won her first Oscar for her performance in the 1988 film The Accused. In this scene, she has a pretrial chat with her lawyer.
Did you have anything to drink before you went to the mill? Or smoke anything?
Oh, half a joint, a couple beers, nothing heavy.
While you were there?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't falling down drunk or anything.
How were you dressed?
What's that supposed to mean?
It means were you dressed provocatively? Showing a lot of cleavage, see-through blouse?
What the fuck difference does it matter how I was dressed? They tore it off of me.
But did how you dress make those guys think that they could have sex with you? Did you put on a show?
What the hell are you talking about? You saw me at the hospital. What do you think I asked for that? Is that what you think? If that's what you think, you get the fuck out of my house.
Why didn't you tell me that you had a record?
Fuck you. I ain't got no record.
You want to tell me about it?
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with William Hellmuth, director of the short sci-fi film Alone, which is streaming right now on Dust. William, I wanted to ask you if you could join a sci-fi franchise to make a film. Maybe you may have hinted at this as being a big fan of a movie you saw as a young kid, but if you could say, hey, I'm going to be a director of a film inside a franchise, sci-fi wise, which one would you pick?
Star Wars. I mean, that's it.
Hands down. Do you watch The Mandalorian?
Yes. Multiple times. So
if we took away Star Wars and we took away Star Trek, let's make this question a little harder. Where do you land?
Okay.
Where do you land there? Joining a franchise after those two are gone?
Well, there aren't too many franchises apart from those two. You got Marvel, which I'm not really a fan of, to be honest.
You get the Matrix, Aliens, the list goes on.
Yeah. The Matrix, Aliens. It'd be pretty fun to jump into the Alien franchise. That world is super cool. Really, that aesthetic has actually informed a lot of mine.
That H.R. Geiger.
Yeah, and if Dune if that becomes more of a franchise, then 100% that. That's. I love sci-fi that's kind of a blend of future and also like classical epic, which Dune very much is. So that I feel like that really like scratches, because I love like fantasy and sci-fi, both those genres. So anything that can kind of meld with those two for me is great.
Yep. Again, for the jawheads that want to follow you online or know more about the film alone, where should we send them?
Go to my Instagram. It's William Hellmuth _DP. And from there, I've got a link to the short film. You can go watch it there. I've got, I post about it often, and I tag the short film's Instagram. So you can also follow the short film from my Instagram.
Nice. Do it, everybody.
Before we get to some movie trivia and before we get to our second review, we did throw a few items into the fish tank. And I know Phil, who was in a simulated fish tank this week, wants to swim up to the top. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, there's some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I don't often get to unplug myself. My neck is very sore. Actually, that's actually my surrogate, my fill-in most other weeks. So it's really, really, I cannot express to you how vivid it is to be out this week. That being said, we have a couple of items. What year did Speed Racer come out in relation to The Matrix? So Speed Racer was a 2008 film. And The Matrix came out almost 10 years earlier, 9 years, because it was 1999, but almost a decade in between the two.
Wow. See, in my mind, and the reason I asked you that, I was under the impression they were rather close. Like Speed Racer was...
That's when the first Matrix came out.
I see. So Matrix, you're right. Matrix, then the next two, and then Speed Racer. Okay, I guess it makes sense, I guess, putting it that way. I still thought Speed Racer was much closer to like early 2000s than 2000.
It was after. It was the first thing they did after The Matrix. So
holy cow!
Wow, was it? Jeez,
I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure
it was. And the second two Matrix movies came out a while after the first one. So, yeah.
Alrighty, our next one is The Congress streaming. Great news! It is streaming, and it is on Amazon Prime. So right after everybody watches Bliss, you can double feature it. And really, at least for me, have a hard time going to sleep wondering about the existential nature of life. And our last one is Total Recall, based upon We'll Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick, and it is indeed.
See that?
It is indeed. Interesting fact. Okay, so I think it was either last week or 2 weeks before, we had talked about how my first name is based off of Akira Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. My middle name, Phil, comes from Philip K. Dick. So we are fully finding out.
At this point, I'm starting to think Phil's making this stuff up.
We know everything behind Akira Philip Fujiwara.
Wow, Phil, I'm impressed, man. You should lead with that. Don't bury that lead. Jesus, man.
Phil is coming out singing all of a sudden. I don't know what else to expect from him.
It's truly, it's the simulation of life and of this show that is dropping these hints. Everyone's going to break through and realize that I'm just an artificial figure, and that's why all these hints are connecting themselves.
There it is. That's the Philip K. Dick in you talking.
Wow. All right. Well, will this simulated Phil get back in the fish tank?
He absolutely will.
All right, Matt. We did catch a second movie. We're celebrating Jodie Foster.
Yes, we did. So The Mauritanian, Jodie Foster, Shailene Woodley, and Benedict Cumberbatch, among others, pool their impressive talents to tell the true story of the Mauritanian, a man wrongly imprisoned and tortured at Guantanamo Bay prison camp by U.S. forces. Is this just yet another 9/11 exploitation, lurid retelling, or can this film stand out and be a little different than we expected?
If you stray outside the designated areas, you will be removed from the island.
It's recommended you wear a hijab when visiting your client. We've had incidents of inmates spitting at female lawyers.
You want to represent the head recruiter for 9/11.
Mohamedou Ould Slahi, the Mauritanian held in Guantanamo. He recruited the guys who flew your friend's plane into the South Tower.
He put those men on my husband's plane?
I'm gonna make him pay.
In the event the detainee lunges for you, push back away from the table. We'll get in there as quick as we can.
The Mauritanian starts off by telling us that we're about to see a true story. I have to admit, I'm not really a fan of this genre, a sort of true crime historical exploitation. I assumed we would get some semblance of both sides of the tale, but that it would be preachy and perhaps a little too forgiving of the horrors at Gitmo. Boy, was I wrong. The film opens with Mahamadou Slahi, played with charm and charisma by Tahar Rahim. More on him in a minute. He's being arrested and taken away from his family. He would spend the next 14 years, Ryan, mostly at Guantanamo Bay, suspected of being involved in 9/11, but he was never charged with any crime. What follows is mostly a law procedural, but it's less about cracking the case and more about finding the human inside of the accused. Director Kevin MacDonald, who's perhaps best known for his documentaries, is also suited well to this story because of the experience on such movies like The Last King of Scotland. He uses these tight, low angles in the detainment scenes and then opens up to wide views when we're with characters who are free. And he manages to capture, no pun intended, the difference between detention and freedom perfectly. Jodie Foster plays the real-life lawyer Nancy Hollander as a steely and determined badass, which by all accounts she is in real life. And Cumberbatch is perfectly serviceable as the prosecution with heart. However, Rahim is the real star of this film, and the level of empathy and humanity that he brings to bear on this prisoner character is the heart and soul of the Mauritanian. In the end, this movie made me aware of an important story and shines a light. I think I went down this rabbit hole head first. Ryan, what did you think?
Yeah, I have seen many movies before with some brutal depictions of torture, but this one might just be the most difficult to watch. And it may sound odd to say, but it's also when the movie seems to work best. And that's that scene leading up to the depiction, which shows both Foster and Cumberbatch reading case files and testimonial stories of the events as we, the viewers, then see it unfold on screen. Very intense, not for everyone. I would say Jodie Foster, very solid here. And I think she has many of the same traits as Nancy Hollander. So I think it was a perfect role for Foster to play.
Yeah. They even share likeness.
Yeah, but more on that in a second too. I learned a lot. And for starters, that there's a country called Mauritania. I didn't know where the title of the movie came from. And so when they mentioned that they were going after this guy in Mauritania, I'm like, oh, so there's a country. And now I learned that it's in Africa on the west coast there. Okay, I got it. I was actually unfamiliar with this story, and I don't know how. It seems like the book was a bestseller. It was in the news. I mean, to hold a guy and not charge him of a crime for 14 years is just literally insane. I don't know where I was that I didn't hear about this story prior, but I really liked learning about it.
Same. I think I had heard about the story, but never put a face to the name, as it were, because of course we've all heard of the transgressions that took place at Guantanamo Bay and how people were held. But this movie really sort of, I don't know, opened up the story. And this character in real life, I like that the movie, I don't think this is a spoiler, we get to see the real life people sort of over the credits, which is a thing that happens in a lot of movies that have to do with reality. And he's such a charming, nice, likable, affable person, that just shine through in the performance here too. And when you see him in real life, I just thought it was a great depiction. Good acting there.
Yeah. And another thing the director, I thought, did really well, you were talking about how they show the confined spaces of the prisoners, is I like how intimidating they made Guantanamo Bay Detention Center feel. And not only from the prisoner's perspective, but also like when the lawyers go to visit the prisoners, the way they have to go through all the many protocols that need to be followed, and the fact that they need to be bussed over there, that there's no way to just like walk over or drive over to this detention center. The whole thing carried like a gravitas to just the detention center itself, a very intimidating presence.
Yeah, I like, there's one scene where Nancy Hollander, Jodie Foster's character, says this will all be a tourist attraction one day. And it's sad, but I think she's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. And a film like this, I think it's a fine line they got to walk when you're talking about, obviously a lot of people have very high emotions with 9/11. And, they're going after a guy that did train with Al-Qaeda. It's, there's things that they traced back to, people staying at his house and so on and so forth. And I was shocked that I didn't think the film, swayed too far to either one side. I thought it walked a pretty fine line that I thought did a fair job of sort of depicting the story. What do you think in those regards?
Well, I agree. I think at the end, it does come down on one side or the other. Mm-hmm. But it gives us the entire film to sort of draw our own conclusions about this person and his humanity, regardless of whether or not he was guilty, right? And I think the characters in the movie struggle with those feelings, and us as viewers struggle with those feelings. But then at the end, it does kind of tell us where it lands as far mm-hmm. as the guilt or innocence of the subject in the film. So yeah, it's not frustrating in that way, is I guess what I'm getting at. It does tell us what to think in terms of the film.
Matt, you got a movie poster quote for us?
Yeah, I do. A light into a dark chapter of American history.
That's a nice one, Matt.
Yeah.
I'll actually compliment you on that one. I went with, you've never heard Benedict Cumberbatch sound like this. How about the voice he used?
Oh, that accent.
Oh my goodness.
Right when he first talked, I thought, oh no,
he's gonna talk like this the entire movie. I can't even do it,
dude. What the hell was that? Was that like Sling Blade? Were you doing there?
It was close to that. What he was doing. It was a strange accent, and
he threw in a country twang, right? And that's so easy. And especially, I have to say this for British actors or actors who have to put on an American accent. It's so easy to overdo the country twang, and it sounds like a cartoon character from the South. And he almost did that in a couple of scenes, especially like the very first time he meets Nancy Hollander. But I think he toned it down throughout the film. Like he must have gotten his flow. It didn't bother me.
How many Jaws, Matt?
I'm going 3.5 here. 3.5.
Wow, you really did like it.
I did.
I'm up there too. I'm 3 Jaws. As well for the Mauritanian. And I do recommend people checking it out. We're celebrating Jodie Foster. I think you got to be excited for seeing Jodie. And that's where you were talking about that she somewhat looked like Nancy Hollander.
Yeah.
I was freaked out when I saw Jodie Foster the first time in the film, because she really looks older in the movie. She has the gray hair.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I was glad to see after the movie, and I checked out a couple interviews of her to see that she isn't quite aged that much. I don't know. I don't want to see old Jodie Foster. I wasn't ready for that yet.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
The Mauritanian is out in theaters and will be available to rent. If you see the Mauritanian, let us know what you thought. Shoot us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. All right, Matt, we like to end every podcast with some fun movie trivia. And in honor of the movie Bliss, we are playing Owen Wilson, Selma Hayek movie trivia. William, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. You can let Matt Kay go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any questions, you get one rescue. Rescue me, Ryan. I do have clues to all the questions.
Gotcha. All right.
They start off easy.
I'm going to let Matt go first.
Okay. He defers.
Question number 1. Name Owen Wilson's co-star in the 2002 film I Spy.
We just talked about this. Oh man, Owen Wilson, and this is easy. You're saying?
I thought it was pretty easy. Name Owen Wilson's co-star in 2002 film I Spy.
Vince Vaughn.
Big mistake. That is incorrect. William, you can chance for a steal to take a 1-0 lead.
Nobody saw I Spy but you, Rye.
I Spy. I didn't see that movie, so I don't remember it. Can I pass? Oh no.
We're looking for Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson in I Spy.
Eddie Murphy.
It's a big hit.
Wow. Comedy masterpiece like that, and you guys miss it. Question 2 over to William. William, as stated earlier, Owen Wilson stars in the masterpiece Armageddon. Who directed that film?
Wow, I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now.
Who directed Armageddon?
That's Michael Bay.
That is correct. Wow.
I can't believe it took me that long.
1-0, William. Question 3 over to Matt K. Matt, Selma Hayek appears in one Kevin Smith film. Which one was it?
Wow. Wondering if it was one of the later Kevin Smith films like Tusk or Red State, but I don't think so. I think it was more core Smith. So I'm going to say, man, this is a total guess. I'm going to say Mallrats.
That is incorrect, Matt K. William, chance for another steal and to take a 2-0 lead. Selma Hayek in what Kevin Smith film?
All right, Kevin Smith. You see that? I'm not even sure if I've ever actually watched a Kevin Smith film.
Come on, Clerks. You've seen Clerks.
No, I haven't. It's they're all of his
got
movies
to
are
see Clerks.
like, I need to watch them someday. Movies. They're not the ones that I've yeah. So I'm not even sure Kevin Smith did this, but it seems like maybe the type of movie she would be in. Did he do there's something about? Is it something about Amy? Is that what it is called?
There's something about Selma? That is incorrect. Barking up the wrong tree. We're looking for Dogma.
Oh, of course. Yep. Okay. Well, I remember
it's
that.
still 1-0. Question 4 over to William. William, Selma Hayek has made one movie, only one movie, with Johnny Depp. It came out in 2003. Name it.
I feel like I know this one.
Selma Hayek, Johnny Depp, and what?
Is it? Is it Sleepy Hollow?
Oof. Incorrect. Matt, you got a chance for a steal and to tie it up.
I wonder if you were kind of on the right trail there, William, with the Burton Depp.
There is something in,
But then again, it's always Helena Bonham Carter in all of those, you know?
Mm-hmm,
so I was going to say, you said Dark Shadows, right?
No. Sleepy Hollow, he said.
Oh, you said Sleepy Hollow. I was going to say maybe Dark Shadows.
Incorrect also. We were looking for Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Of course.
Yes.
Right.
Still 1-0 here, William. Maybe that lead's going to hold. Right. It might hold because they get harder here. Question 5 over to Matt K.
Oh, wow.
Matt, Owen Wilson has made one film with Julia Roberts. It came out in 2017. Name it.
Wow. I don't. What is this, number 7?
This is question 5.
Holy crap! You wrote some hard trivia this week, dude. What did Julia Roberts do in 2017?
Owen Wilson, Julia Roberts.
Right. Is it that one where her son is an addict and he's back for the holidays kind of thing? Was it that one? That's my guess.
The film you're referring to is Ben is Back, and it was not that one. No.
Okay.
Chance for a steal here, William, and at this point take a commanding 2-0 lead. Any guess on Owen Wilson, Julia Roberts movie?
I can't even think of a Julia Roberts movie in 2017 or Owen Wilson. There's got to be something. Hang on, let me think. Let me give us a few seconds here. Owen Wilson and Julia Roberts.
Anything. You do have a rescue if you need it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take it. Yeah,
Rescue Me, Ryan. Question number 5. Your clue is you'll wonder how you got this one wrong.
It's not To the Wonder, is it?
Can you shorten that up? Just a one-worder.
Oh. Wow.
Gotta buzz him, I think.
Yeah.
We were just looking for wonder. Just wonder. Yeah, just wonder.
Wonder?
Yeah.
So you literally just gave me the...
I know.
Wow. Okay. I should have just said it. Should have said wonder. Wow.
Still 1-0, William. Question 6 is over to him. In 2017, Selma Hayek starred in a film with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. Name the movie.
All right. Selma Hayek, Ryan Reynolds, and Samuel L. Jackson. Snakes on a Plane.
That is incorrect. Matt, you got a chance for a steal here.
I was racking my brain while William was thinking over there. Jesus, man. I know.
These are hard.
Yeah.
Nothing?
Deadpool.
Wow. We're looking for The Hitman's Bodyguard. The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Man, yeah, I know. That's another one nobody saw, right?
Yeah, who watched these movies?
All right.
Not me.
Well, they only get tougher. So you want a great one. When I did the research for this, I forgot about this movie, and I have seen it. Get a load of this one. Question 7 over to Matt K. Matt, Owen Wilson has made one film with the great Gene Hackman. The two starred together, Owen Wilson and Gene Hackman, in a film. It came out in 2001. Name the movie.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not. Gene Hackman made a movie with Owen Wilson.
Okay, Rescue Me, Ryan.
Whoa, Rescue Me, Ryan. Matt, you're behind in trivia. Behind in trivia.
Behind the 8 ball.
Ooh, that is incorrect. But behind does sound right. William, you got a chance for a steal here. Owen Wilson, Gene Hackman, in what film?
Behind Man.
Behind Man?
These are hard. But yeah, why not? Behind the Man.
Behind the Candelabra.
That famous film.
We're looking for Behind Enemy Lines.
Behind Enemy Lines.
Oh, okay. There we are.
There it is. It is 1-0. The last question of the game is over to William. He can win it on a walk-off right here. William, in 1998, Selma Hayek starred in a film with Neve Campbell, Ryan Felipe, and Mike Myers. Name the movie.
I'm terrible at trivia.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
I do it every week.
Wow.
Any guess?
All right. Mike Myers, Selma Hayek. I'm gonna go. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Was it like? Let's see. I can't remember the name of it. There's like some. I really have no idea. So 98. Yeah.
Dude, I got nothing. Nothing.
Wow. Matt goes 0 for 8 on this trivia game. Unbelievable. We were looking for 54 was the name of it. It was about the Club 54. 54. Oh, I saw it in the theaters. I remember seeing it in the theaters.
Yeah, I mean, Studio 54.
Right. It's about Studio 54. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see that one either, Ryan.
In unprecedented fashion, William wins this one 1-0. 1-0 for William.
Well, hey, my hat is off to you. Virtual fist bump there.
Yes.
If it came down to a tie, William, this question would have been to you. Better actor, Owen Wilson or Selma Hayek?
Selma Hayek.
Incorrect. It's Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The real jawbreaker was this. Age of Selma Hayek closest to, Matt?
Selma's got to be 50 something, so 53.
Lock him in at 53. William, you got a guess?
I mean, she's in her 50s. I'm pretty sure she's in her 50s, so I'm gonna say closer to like 56.
Give it to Matt slightly. 54 for Selma Hayek. So you guys are right on top of it, though.
All right.
Wow, tough.
She's still
trivia.
looking great. Oh man,
sorry guys.
Yeah.
Wow. Tough.
Matt's sweating over there. I've never seen Matt such a wreck.
I mean, Owen Wilson. Jesus, man, you dug deep.
Unbelievable. Brings us to the end of a great jaw. And first and foremost, got to thank our guest, William. Thanks for coming on. Great meeting you, and congrats on the film.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. This was great. Had a great time.
Sweet.
We also got to thank our editor, our producer, Fill Me In Phil.
Every week, always the best night of the week, guys.
We also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
While you're at it, please click subscribe. One extra click for you helps us out tremendously.
Until next week, I'm Rye the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.